host, Mani Golparvar, co-founder and CTO of Reconstruct Inc. and professor at University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, my alma mater. Thanks a lot for being on the show.
Good afternoon, good morning. Thank you very much for having me. So, for those of you who don't know me, as I was introduced, my name is Mani Golparvar. I'm currently Chief Technology Officer and co-founder of Reconstruct. Reconstruct is a software as a service platform, and we call it a visual command center, a command center for construction projects. And you may say, well, you're calling it visual command center. What do I mean by visual? Visual to our customers and our partners, it means ability of taking in reality capture on job sites using drones, using 360 cameras, using cell phone devices, and putting that into Reconstruct. So you can automatically generate three-dimensional as-built models of your job site as much as you get 2D as-built floor plans or ortho photos for outside. And what we do in our platform is we twin reality models that we create from reality capture data against design that can be completely 3D building information models, or it can be 100% 2D or a hybrid of the two. So at any moment in time, the design that is being twinned against the reality model shows you what is there versus what should be there. And the basis of that is for as-built documentation, tracking quality of work in place, tracking work in progress, and schedule risk analysis. Our solution is also used for physical asset inspection during the operational maintenance life of any physical asset. So as I was also introduced, I also wear a second hat. I'm a professor at the University of Illinois. I'm primarily in the Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering. I'm also affiliated with departments of computer science and our technology entrepreneurship program. But what it all means is that I live at the interface of artificial intelligence and construction, very specifically computer vision, which is the study of images and videos and how we can generate actionable insight in terms of understanding of geometry, understanding of semantics, understanding of actions or context. So I've been working on solving many of the pain points that we have in our construction industry through the most understandable form of data, which is to me visual data. Something that if you show to a foreman, to a superintendent, to a field engineer, all the way up to an owner, everyone would be able to see it, understand it, and use that as a base of solving many of our coordination and communication problems.
Reconstruct brings together reality capture and construction documents to let you navigate your site in 2D and view progress in 3D. Construction projects live and die by the progress they make, and as an owner, you need to be able to keep an eye on progress. The old way of doing things meant taking a long flight or driving through hours of traffic into the middle of nowhere, only to spend an hour or two on site. Get weeks of your life back with Reconstruct by bringing the project site to your desktop. Getting started is easy. Have the site crew walk the project with an off-the-shelf 360-degree camera. Second, upload the video to Reconstruct's cloud service. And third, drop in your floor plans or design models. Now, all project stakeholders can walk your project from anywhere and see what's there versus what's supposed to be there, as well as view a historical record of how the job came together. So what does this mean for you? For project stakeholders like owners reps, developers, and general contractors, you see three major benefits. First, a 50% reduction in travel time and costs associated with job site visits. Second, better visibility into your jobs, no more surprises in monthly meetings. And third, verify the work you're paying for is being installed on schedule. As the construction industry shifts to remote monitoring, reconstruct.
It's very rare to see like professors also doing like starting a company, and from your journey, like what have been like some techniques which helped you manage time in these two areas, and what's a piece of advice for other professors who are also thinking about doing something similar?
Well, that's a really good question. Advice. I'm still learning and I'm going through that journey myself. But once I probably mentioned that earlier in my remarks that I got really passionate about solving an industry problem. That's why I got into academia. I felt like the journey that I'm taking to uh, create a body of knowledge a body of knowledge in science that can eventually basic research to applied research, from applied research into a product. I set my own personal mission that I like to be part of this journey of taking it from that computer vision all the way into a solution that now I have to worry about the process and persona, or how does it fit into an existing project controls workflow on the job. So that excitement has been something that has led me through this journey. Being at a university such as the university process is slightly more challenging because the requirements for tenure and promotion are on some of the most rigorous types of assessments that you would see across any university. Expectation is for me to dominantly focus on basic research. But at the time when I was coming, there was a new initiative at the College of Engineering that was basically focusing that College of Engineering is interested in supporting faculty members to the lab and making it more relevant, balancing what we are really is rigor in our research with what we've signed up for, which is the relevance of making it applicable. The dean, my department head at the time, they were really open to this idea of me exploring entrepreneurship. I mean, in simple terms, transformation of my research into something that is usable and useful to the practice. It was, signed up for this opportunity called Faculty Entrepreneurial Fellowship. I was the only non-tenure track faculty member to join that cohort at the time, and university started supporting me, and I had the luxury of working with many other talents, such as and the entire team of early folks that were part of that.
Like startup, there are always like ups and downs. What has been the lowest point of in the reconstruct journey, and how did you manage those times?
Building a culture for companies and not being co-located with people is not easy. And pain in that process, a lot of learning and a lot of discipline in terms of how you plan the work and how you find deviations between what you wanted to achieve versus you ended up achieving. And after having great partners, in early days, we joined Oracle, accelerator companies for that opportunity, and Oracle gave us a lot of resources, technical resources, business development. And our last round of funding was actually led by Nemetschek. Has a portfolio of software companies, including Bluebeam, that many with, or Vectorworks, including and so many solutions that architecture engineering and of course the beauty of partners also investing in us. Cisco, Hennessy, Shop Architects, and of course TDs have also invested in us as the base of the growth.
That's incredible, and that's so much insightful when you shared all those like challenges. I was curious. So when in engineering, when you're doing research, you have the mindset of I want to solve the problem and do the best solution. But once you do a startup and in the entrepreneurship world, there's so many different hats you need to wear depending on the situation. So what were some new skills you had to learn when you started this till date?
A lot. When you come from a construction background, you feel like the nation and communication are known to you, but the type of talent you work in is different from what you used to on the job site. It's also equally different from what you used to. Being able to first and foremost find individual skill sets, not redundant, is extremely challenging in terms of what makes a product marketing person to be really good at marketing person and what they do, and being able to do many of capabilities that the company needs, or financing. I mean, the financing VC would say, you have payment application and estimation process, but Again, many that one may not necessarily have are things that I've been exposed to and made a lot of mistakes. We had the luxury of getting partners help us in some of those aspects. One of my biggest lessons learned is that many entrepreneurs, they think that they don't want to bring these complementary skill sets in the early days because they don't want to um, structure that they have for company shares. And I never believed in that, but I've learned it also hard way that the sooner you bring complement, you can only be good if you have a really really good team. And having that, again, I emphasize complementary skill sets is extremely important, and that you don't have to. There are many talents out there that can help you with those complementary skills, making them believe in the same mission as you have and having them walk this journey with you are aspects.
Got it. And when I talk to my friends who are into construction tech, they always ask me why we don't see a lot of AI based construction startups in the industry. So I'm curious to know, like, what do you think are areas where you think uh, rule based algorithms makes more sense in construction versus AI, and what's the hype?
That's a really good point. So maybe I should also share with you. Almost about 2 years ago, I had the opportunity of thinking about sort of what what a broader industry can benefit from when it comes to AI. And there's a basis of brainstorming around this idea of establishing an institute. And I started this conversation first and foremost with many of our own colleagues. Actually, also Illinois and two of our colleagues at Carnegie Mellon. And then at the same time, construction companies. You know what? Reconstruct is one example of a company that brings AI driven as a product, but then the product's engine is built on a number of AI algorithms. Always interested in finding AI, but there's obviously a gap between what perspective versus what startup and early stage technology companies do versus what. So what if we do this institute that we can streamline this journey of going from, there are many elements there, right? So the academics can work on the pain points that these early stage companies. Companies can work on piloting and refining their products for the industry. The industry can work on the journey of adoption of these AI-driven products, and they can figure out how much go into piloting existing technologies versus partnering with universities in coding. I also wanted to bring the investment community to be part of this journey, coaching and transform people. We actually received that funding. We received the funding from National Science Foundation and Discover. And as of today, we have a little bit over 85 companies, people, and by invitation only, that we actually were able to attract them, and your own company too, that have joined us, and we've been able to, creating a roadmap of what this institute should do when it comes in terms of the applied research. Now, specifically to your question of when it comes to AI, in whether rule-based techniques or data-driven techniques is beneficial, it truly varies. As a base of establishing this number of workshops that are dominantly focused on one step. So one workshop was specifically focused on construction and a little bit of extension of that into operation, almost sort of an interface of design versus operation phase. In many of the use cases, you can immediately see the word of design and different from that of construction, because when it comes to design and engineering, rules and best practices that are very well documented, and those used as a basis of creating more automation, like for example, automation around, let's say, compliance checking. There are many rules in place, all the basic we currently use, and if you want to be automating that, one step you want to do is you want to formalize it in a format that is understandable by machine, but that's a machine learning algorithm or and use that as a basis of application. Things are slightly different. Obviously we have a plan in place for our construction project, obviously, but the nature of the problems that we have to worry about are different. For example, a topic that is dear to myself and many contractors out there, safety. Right? I have an interest in understanding safety on the job site, and there's a ton of effort put in. One thing that growth of industry unfortunately has shown us over the past 3-4 years is industry starts picking up and the expectation of productivity goes up. Obviously our workers are more unsafe practices, and unfortunately the rate of fatal and non-fatal injuries are. Now you may say, how can AI help with safety? There are many different. Most important aspect to keep in mind is everything starts with data. You can, this is for workers, equipment, resources you have on the job site that are being tagged by, and use the data in terms of GPS, pressure, accelerometer, sensitive devices, and make sense of that in terms of what's happening to a worker. My area of focus and interest has been dominantly visual data. So I'll make a case about the visual data. Today's market, there are a number of solutions out there that are specifically looking to understand the visual worker's perspective. Do they have the right personal protective equipment, PPE? And they've algorithms, so now you can automatically and rather in real time detect if work vests, glasses. In some of these solutions, they're actually able to with methods that these algorithms can actually scale into something companies. For example, in the case of PPE, one idea that has worked really, looking to photographs that are currently available on the job site, make assessment of how many, but instead of focusing on individuals and projects, looking to it in a context of portfolio, can tag those projects that perhaps need more attention from a safety training perspective. Basic idea that works really, really well from an AI perspective, and you've transferred in action at the same time for construction companies. But then you may say, well, describing is not, is that rule-based? No, I'm describing more for computer vision use. The fact that there's still so much unknown in the world of AI that needs to be, you can create these AI, AI-driven products. Specifically on the topic of, I'm sure many of the people in the audience would agree with me, safety matters when the work construction activity in a certain type of context. Think about grinding. The action of grinding is the worker that is performing the grinding, is the worker using the right tool, the environment, that's the place that the worker is situated at the same time, and what kind of activity person is doing with that grinder. Be able to first and foremost understand workers' body posture, being able to work your tool interaction, understanding human activities that happen in the scene, text, and creating a new machine learning model that can sense of that is something that is science. That problem is broadly not solved in the area of computer vision. So I think some of these solutions are coming to the market that are touching some of the low-hanging fruit opportunities. Broad creates readiness at the industry about these types of solutions. At the same time, an opportunity for us in the world of academia to sort of better the problems that needs to be addressed. Now, many of these things that has to do with, mention the case of safety, right? Safety, quality, progress are broad form because there are still many unknowns. Any unknowns that they all need to be. The beauty is that we don't have to solve them. Let's apply these techniques on the data and let's see what kind of insight we get. We know when it comes to a construction project, we know what the definition of quality is, whatever the design shows, whatever the specifications. We know based on our OSHA regulations what constitutes an unsafe practice. When it comes to progress, we have some understanding of how inferred by superintendents. So that means you can actually create a body of expect against the data and train machine learning algorithms that can try to do the actionable insight you want to be generating. Now, from this basically your problem becomes completely data driven, right? And you're trying to find that fits the data that is of interest to you. Of course, not the raw data, but rather feature computer vision that is being driven by the data, in this case being visual data. Now, in terms of the rule-based, like I said, specifically design optimization that can be easily built on these rules. In these workshops, one major finding that we had was for many of these architecture engineering, there are many existing techniques in the world of AI that are with rather short-term research. They can potentially transform into and eventually become the basis of products. That means folks that are in the world of architecture, they may want to tap into expertise of students that have been programs like the one that we have at the University of Illinois, where people are being exposed to AI and conventional. These guys can be recruited by these companies, and they're equipped with the right type of and start solving these problems. So these are rather, I would characterize them, many of them are short. But our discovery on the construction side was slightly different. Many of the problems that we have in construction problems still require long-term research. By long-term, I mean you're looking at the spectrum of 3 to 5 years. And what that means is that we still need to attract a lot of the students, taking them to our standard, making sure that they truly develop an expertise on one specific type of techniques, and work on proof of concept from an academic perspective. So, I mean, I don't want to sort of this distinction is something that is sort of becoming a little bit more that there are some problems that based on how we've our knowledge in the domain that can be all based on they can be quickly AI perspective, and there's a completely set of new problems that new body of science in AI.
I see. I think for researchers to develop products or train AI models, they need like real world data from the industry. And a lot of companies think their construction data or design data is their IP. So it's like a chicken and egg problem where, okay, you want better models, but you don't have the data. So how do we solve this?
Yeah, this is a fascinating. In both workshops, we had two panels specifically, and I go back to one of the examples that my colleague Derek, to the point that you made, a lot of construction companies feel like their data is their IP. Now, on the academic side, most people think that the algorithms is what really matters. The combination of data and algorithm. You cannot have one of them thinking that you're sitting on it. It's just not true. And here's what the challenge is. People, perspective, they understand that data is important. They feel like their data is their competitiveness. So they're not easily, because somebody else is going to benefit from it. On the opposite side, you have people who are having that data, being able to use that, but oftentimes it's not really easy for them. To also mention something, designers, engineers, and contractors all work for, they also equally don't own the data. The data that they have is actually owned by their own two technology companies. Broadly, it's the same problem. The data is not owned by them, but they also have access to it, right? So how do you really try to bridge this gap? You need the data to actually be labeled. I'll get into the labeling problem in a moment. Um, um, neither party is really ready to provide that, and so I've been really interested in exploring whether there's an opportunity for licensing data. What I mean, construction companies can obviously generate revenue from derivatives of their data. What I mean by that is if somebody is actually training machine learning based on someone's data, share part of the revenue of that product that would eventually come out of it, the party that provided the data. That idea is sort of something that I'm very deeply exploring. How do we sort of formalize it? How do we formalize the model where by a trusted party like University of Illinois in one major repository is accessible by every technology company. So if then we can upload your algorithm into this sort of platform, test it against the data. We can give you back the numbers, how you ended up using the data, so we understand what is the impact of the data on what is sort of that royalty associated with this method as a function of the data you've used. So one perspective, I'm really exploring that, but you have to keep in mind a lot of data that exists out there is that's another reality that we all have to face with. Interesting enough, Autodesk put out a report presenting numbers that, gosh, they were close to about 75. The data is truly not structured in a way that can be consumed. I mean, to some, there are obviously techniques that can potentially find insightful patterns. I haven't spent my time exploring that type of data, but all I can tell you is that for me, it is not labeled. It is extremely problematic. One way of solving that problem is it's actually an interesting problem that a few technology companies have addressed. So, I'll explain the workflow that people say issue management, RFIs, quality tickets, punch list item, daily documentation you have on the job site. Imagine you want to tie them against risk, right? Apply some form of machine learning on the text that is associated. Now, the beauty of labeling that data can actually the function of a product. Imagine you invent a product. I mean, there are many issue management platforms out there, Core, aectech, even Solibri has some form of a coordination solution by itself. Imagine you sort of start the data that these platforms are capturing and have a human in loop element, the right label. So what I mean by that is start training your algorithms with a smaller amount for the customer in terms of tying, let's say, these issues against risk and the same levels of risk, right? And every time you make that inference based on the data, tell you whether your prediction was correct or not. And of course, not every user is going to be respond, but over time, the feedback that you get with the user, meaning human, and generate that ground truth you need. So generating that ground truth product, and this is actually something that type of institute of AI would be really positioned for, because now if you have technology companies that are interested in bringing these AI, defining workflows for the user that can start giving you the ground truth of the product. So now you would completely transform the problem that you had with the data. But at the same, equally excites me is the availability of synthetic data. One thing that has been an interesting trend, especially computer vision, is the fact that you can use synthetic data to augment or train your machine learning algorithms. And what excites me is, as many of our workflows are driven by design. I mean, and nothing is driven by a plan, whether that's a design or schedule. What that means to me is we are probably one of the few industries that we truly have an opportunity to leverage that is sitting in our 2D or 3D design, specifically in the context of design, that train many of our algorithms. Problems of quality control, problems of detect condition assessment, problems of even construction progress monitoring. You don't have data for studying a three-dimensional environment. You can synthetically render that in a way that can be fed. So, I mentioned a few aspects of shows you the beauty and complexity of dealing with and your point about rule-based techniques versus data-driven techniques. I think living in time of our journey for our industry, there's funding in the world of construction tooling, transformation of those AI algorithms that are ready to be used. And as come to the market, the more gaps in body of technology and AIs, academics can be more driven by working with the technology companies, with the industry directly, so they can solve the pain points of technical solutions as opposed to directly working in more of a black that you're only being exposed to the end user's problem. Understanding that is extremely what academia should be focusing on is really solving pain points of tech, what you're not able to do with the data that you have that can add that value to that engineer.
You shared some super interesting ideas. Like I have asked like many people about solving the data problem, but uh, the proposals you have like have seems feasible, and like if we solve that problem, it would be like win-win situation for all. I was wondering like even like for reality capture, comparing with how Tesla does capture of all the environment around it. They're also crowdsourcing it to the cars and then continuously updating their AI model and training it. So, how do we take some learning from that industry and maybe use it in our industry?
It's a fascinating question. Actually, something we're very passionate about at Reconstruct. We call our solution Visual Command Center because we truly take in every form factor of reality. And to me, there are 5 types, very specific. Images and video factors, many field personnel are capturing with their cell phone or consumer-grade camera. Pictures and videos you're capturing with robotic platforms, specifically air drones, time-lapse cameras, whether those are from fixed positions or they're being moving platform like what we have with tower cranes. We actually have a solution for tower cranes. See cameras in the videos or hyperlapse videos that they can transform laser scanning data. The reality of our projects there's not one reality capture solution that would fit a given job. You would always have a diverse reality captures on a single job site. And of course, when you're worried about a portfolio of projects, you'd be one of these form factors. So, your point is a little bit more about crowdsourcing. By design, our platform was created to that you would always go into this platform, and regardless of the form factor of how the device is placed, where the version of the truth against the design is being shown at the same time. The twinning of the reality. The philosophy behind our software, the philosophy behind our company has always been, that reality capture that exists. Now, the notion of crowdsourcing it, from a process and people perspective. You can start thinking,
what if there were many ubiquitous cameras in if these cameras were all moving the scene, they were able to form. Just give me a moment, please. Time is coming. So, what I wanted to mention about the forms of reality capture is being able to losing my train of thoughts. I was
It was about
referring
crowdsourcing.
to yeah. So in early days on the research side of it, we started thinking, okay, well, you could have had many of these cameras mounted on hard hats or even the body of the workers and create capture. I mean, if these cameras are constantly turned on, there are always elements of picture. In the early days, we actually give it a name on the research side. We call them Oculus cameras. Oculus hard hats. We actually had them mounted on the hard hats years ago. And at the time, we didn't have any 360 cameras. We had dominantly looking into action as the base of that. But again, one thing that I've learned through the practice of Reconstruct, trying to leverage the data that customers already have. Many customers already have these. Trying to ask them to change their hardware, come up with a way that you can consume that data. Let them capture data when it truly matters to them. Wanting to capture a wealth of information that may not be readily usable to them. Of course, had that amount of data, you can do massive amount of research. You can start looking into safety hazards. You can look into truly transformative quality control practices. But baby step is to tap into hardware that customers currently have. Figure out a way that we can, in the context of computer vision algorithms that we have at Reconstruct, and generate actionable insight. So hopefully I'll give you an answer that I think where we are as an industry, it's better to tap into what people have as requirements. Ability of taking visual data through robotic platforms does excite me. And on this journey of looking to robotic platforms, we did look into ground robotics in 2015, so almost 7 years ago. We actually had a ground, and I wasn't thinking that construction people would be this receptive of platform. That has truly taken me by surprise. I do have a robotic background. I do have an interest in the field. I know emotions and reactions to robotic platforms. People do see robots as a potential co-worker on the job site. So that means that if your robotic platforms are not actively engaged in a task for you, they can help you sense the environment that you're operating in, and that could be the model that you have in mind.
That's amazing. I was comparing to what in AI industry we see a lot of multimodal models with text, image, and even voice modes combined. I was wondering what if we have like construction scheduling as a time series parameter, then images of like site and also 3D model with the geometry data, and that could become an interesting multimodal model for predictive analysis.
Absolutely. Actually, that's one of track. If you have design and you have a schedule, you can create a 4D BIM, you can show a 4D design or 4D plan versus as-built documentation. Now, of course, the basis of that can be immediately used to find deviations of which we offer that capability, and looking to the trend of that data can also feature, which we also have IP on that Reconstruct, that we look into what are the elements next 3-4 weeks of your look ahead, and we transform that data at the work location. You go into a coordination meeting, and instead of worrying about your past, you would think about, all right, and then risk, and how do we collaborate together to understand the root causes for that risk. Anyway, so I'd love to see if those people who are on the audience want to learn more about, share with you more more about how exactly Reconstruct solves that problem today.
I see. And how people who are watching this can reach out to you if they want to collaborate or partner with any of the projects?
Absolutely. So I'm actually not very difficult to I do have a lot of presence. Reconstruct. I'm at Mani at reconstructing.com, and through the university, my shared. So feel free to reach out to me any point in time. I love to learn what yourself or anybody else in my team, either at Reconstruct or university, can help. We love to learn.
Awesome. I have a rapid fire round before we end the interview. So we'll have like 5 to 10 seconds to answer it, and you gotta keep it very brief. So let's do it. Which cities are in your travel bucket list?
Um, Chicago. Again.
I see. Is there any book which made a big impact in your life?
Construction performance improvement. Since
Y-
your audience is in by 1989.
Your favorite movie?
Uh, Shawshank.
I see. Your role model?
I have many role models that are currently active in the world of academia. Sir Ray Levitt at Stanford, one of them. My own advisor, Feniaski Penny Amar, and also Greg Howell, one of the founders. I owe him many of the concepts that I'm working on based on what he taught me before.
Mhm. How does a day in your life look like?
It starts from 5 a.m. in the morning, and it goes on all the way to um, midnight.
One piece of advice would you would like to share for all the construction students who are interested in technology and startup?
There's so much opportunity out there. If you're truly passionate about it, learn and learn. Learn new knowledge. You have AI, broadly computer programming, perhaps, and computer science. Learn that. Find people who have complementary skill sets. Team up with them and focus. If you truly have a vision uh, and you're driven by that vision, you can put together that problem. It's going to be a hard journey, but if I've gone through that, I'm sure many of to me, I can do way better than I did.
Mhm. If there is one tweet you would like to be remembered by, what would that be?
Repeat the question, please.
If there is like if there is one tweet which you would like to be remembered by, what would that be?
Computer engineering and management.
Awesome. Is there anything which we didn't cover in this interview and you would like to share on a closing note?
No, thank you very much for the opportunity. Depending on where you are in your journey of AI, if you are, an industry practitioner looking to using technology, if you want to be co-developing that, if you want to join an education, be engaged in all of those efforts. So I'd be happy to talk to you.
Thanks a lot, Professor Mani. It was an incredible interview, so many interesting insights, and I wish all the luck.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. And while I had my cell phone on, I'm glad that at least we were able to get. Thank you. Y'all have a great
Yeah,
day
you
listening
too.
to this.
Mhm.
Bye bye.